And now, the Deeper Thinking Podcast, a space for ideas and reflections in our uncertain times.
Welcome to the Deeper Thinking Podcast. This essay is a translation of an inner voice, the one that speaks when everything else quiets, not the voice that pushes or performs or explains, the one underneath, the one that waits. It doesn't give advice, it doesn't instruct, it notices, it remembers. What follows is not a plan or a method, it's a rhythm, a return, a conversation between what is known and what is still becoming, a slow unfolding of presence, not to fix you but to side you. These words aren't goals, they're gestures, they don't teach, they accompany, and they are offered with care, not persuasion. This work was written to honour your pace, to meet you where you are, not where someone decided you should be. There is no expectation here, no benchmark to reach. You are not asked to agree, you are not asked to improve, you're not asked to be healed. Each sentence was shaped to reflect an ethic of gentleness. No pain is romanticised. No confusion is pathologized. No emotion is framed as a flaw. No absence of progress is treated as failure. This isn't a performance of healing. It's an attempt to speak truth without spectacle, to hold space without demand. If these words bring you ease, stay with them. If they don't, leave them behind. That too is an act of self-trust. The voice in these pages doesn't rescue, it invites, it speaks back, it makes space for contradiction, for hesitation, for the slow shape of change. It knows that some days presence is hard, that staying with yourself is the work. There's no urgency here, no requirement to understand, only a gentle welcome back to something that may have always been yours. This essay is not about becoming someone else, it's about remembering who you never stopped being. Welcome then, only as you are. That is always enough. It begins with a voice that arrives quietly, when the noise outside fades and your attention turns inward, a voice that doesn't instruct, but notices, not the one trained to explain or adjust, but the deeper one that knows, even when words haven't caught up. You are what you think, and also what you've been told, what you've absorbed unconsciously, what's been repeated around you until it sank in as fact. The mind rehearses its inputs, not always with permission. That's why the story you carry matters. Not the one you tell out loud, the one beneath that, the one that shaped you before you could name it. Thoughts shape experience. But what if some thoughts still scare you? What if they echo someone else's voice, someone who once made you smaller? There's courage in naming that, and there's strength in noticing without pushing away. Emotions speak. Fear shows what matters. Anger shows where care lives. Anxiety reminds you that your mind has drifted ahead of your body. These aren't signs of failure, they're signs of aliveness. But what if you don't yet understand the language? What if fear shuts you down? If anger frightens you? If anxiety feels like drowning, not distance? You're allowed to move slowly. You're allowed to not know what it all means yet. Emotions don't demand immediate clarity, only care. Motivation builds from movement, from returning, from rhythm, from repetition. It's not lightning, it's weathering. Still, some days movement feels far away. Some days rhythm is unreachable. What if you're still waiting to believe in your ability to build anything at all? That's not failure. That's context. Your effort still counts, even when it's invisible, even when it's quiet. Habits shape life, yes, but not everyone begins in the same place. Some habits form in safe soil, others in survival. If you're learning to shift even one of them, that's a kind of miracle. You don't need to be consistent to be committed. You don't need to be perfect to begin again. The past holds stories, not definitions. You can visit it with care, learn from it, bring parts of it with you, but you don't have to live inside it. And still, some days you do, because it's familiar, because it's where you were seen or hurt or made. That's okay. Memory doesn't have to be erased to move forward. It only asks to be honoured, and then held a little differently. Some people will stir things in you. That doesn't always mean they're mirrors. Sometimes they're echoes, sometimes the voice you're learning to unlearn. What matters is how you meet what they wake, with judgment or with space, with kindness or with boundaries. There's no right way, only a path that feels more like you. You are not broken, you're in motion. And motion, even unsteady, even delayed, still holds grace. Peace often begins in the smallest shifts, in how you soften your grip, in what you stop trying to control. But for many, control has meant safety. Letting go isn't always ease. It can feel like free fall. Still, somewhere underneath the tension, there's a quiet place that holds. Trust doesn't need to be loud. It grows in your next decision, and the one after that. Each small choice becomes part of the shape your life is taking. You don't have to rush toward clarity. It will come, not as a shout, but as a noticing. Sometimes what's underneath the noise isn't peace, it's grief. Sometimes silence isn't soothing, it's unsettling. Even so, turning inward is an act of bravery. Not to find something fixed, but to sit with what's there. To listen without rushing in to repair. Your inner voice may not have always been kind. Maybe it mirrored others. Maybe it wasn't yours at all. But it can shift, slowly, through care, through repetition, through presence. You can begin to speak to yourself with the same softness you offer others. You can hear yourself without flinching. You don't have to win against your old patterns. There is no competition inside you. Just parts in conversation. You might not feel whole yet. You might not even feel ready, but you can meet what rises without urgency. You can be with it without fixing it. That's healing too. Healing isn't always visible. It's not a straight line. Sometimes it's not a line at all. It's a spiral or a scattering or a loop you're still inside. You may revisit the same ache more than once. And that doesn't mean you've failed. It means you're alive. It means depth is real. You don't always have to meet pain with grace. Sometimes you meet it with silence, with fatigue, with disinterest. That's still meeting it. The point isn't how beautifully you hold it. The point is that you do, in your own way, at your own pace. You are not required to feel whole to be whole. You can be unfinished and still be worthy. You can be changing and still be enough. You can feel like a contradiction and still belong. There is room for all of you here, even the parts you're still getting to know, especially those. Growth shows up in ways you might not expect, not as a sudden breakthrough, but as a quiet moment of awareness. You notice a pattern before it takes over. You feel something shift, less reaction, more breath. That's change. That's you becoming. But if that shift hasn't arrived yet, it doesn't mean it won't. Some patterns are louder before they leave. Some take their time, and their time is not a reflection of your worth. You are not behind, even if change feels messy, even if the old ways still call you back. Rebuilding doesn't always feel like progress. It often feels like uncertainty, like standing in a place with no clear walls, no solid structure, and yet you're choosing to stay, choosing to keep going. That's a kind of architecture too. Your mind may try to pull you toward the familiar. That doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're human. Sometimes old roles feel safer than what's next. You can honor the part of you that still hesitates without letting it lead. You're allowed to be different now. Even if your voice shakes, even if the ground wobbles, that permission belongs to you. Boundaries are a language of care. You're learning to speak it. Sometimes fluently, sometimes with pauses. The more you speak it, the more natural it becomes. But even when it's hard, it's worth trying. You don't need to explain your growth to those who refuse to witness it, especially if their comfort depended on your silence. Integrity means staying close to what you know is true, even when that truth disrupts the peace, even when it causes discomfort in you or in others. And that's not easy, especially when discomfort has been punished. Especially when silence once kept you safe. Still, each time you choose alignment over approval, you come home to yourself. Not all change needs to be loud. Sometimes it begins with a single word withheld, a pause where there used to be apology, a breath instead of a yes. These are not small gestures. They are tectonic. They mark the place where you began to return, where you began to root. And even if no one else notices, even if no one else affirms it, your nervous system does, your body does. That quiet no carries a lifetime of yeses you were told to give away. It's not just protection, it's design, it's love shaped like a limit. What matters most is often quiet. It doesn't demand, it waits for space, for attention, for you to become still enough to notice. But stillness isn't always safe. For some, it's where fear echoes loudest. If calm has never been comfort, it's okay to take your time. Presence isn't found by force, it's something you grow toward. A little more each time you stay with yourself. The work isn't always visible. Sometimes it's the decision not to rush. Sometimes it's choosing not to respond right away. Sometimes it's letting a thought pass without building a story around it. These small shifts are real, but if they don't feel like progress yet, that's okay. Some changes root before they bloom. You may not feel brave, you may not feel wise, but the way you keep returning to reflection, to honesty, to the breath that quiet courage, it doesn't need an audience. It doesn't need to be named. Your presence is its own reward. But if presence feels like a stretch, know that even the reaching counts. You're learning to let your responses be a little slower, to feel your way rather than perform knowing. This is a different kind of strength. It doesn't dominate, it listens. But what if listening still feels unsafe? What if your body still expects interruption? That too belongs. Healing makes space for where you're not yet soft. Boundaries, when chosen from care, don't shut people out. They protect what's sacred. You decide what gets close. Not everything needs a reason. Not every departure needs a speech. Some doors close not because of anger, but because of clarity. And some stay open because grace still lives there. Letting go can be an act of love, a quiet release that says, I am choosing peace. But peace doesn't always come with comfort. Sometimes it arrives with loneliness, with uncertainty, with the ache of not being understood. You don't have to pretend otherwise. You can want peace and still miss what it cost. There is discernment growing in you, a knowing of what drains and what fills, a recognition of how much it takes to stay true to yourself. That recognition isn't always easy. It can come after too many breaches, too many second chances. But even those moments teach you. They bring you closer to the life you're now shaping, with more care, with more awareness, and with a gentleness that took time to earn. Some truths are felt before they're understood. You notice a shift, not in how others treat you, but in how you treat yourself. You stop waiting for a signal that it's okay to rest. You give yourself that permission. But if it still feels foreign, that's not failure. That's what learning looks like when the rules you were given never made space for softness. You catch yourself in the middle of an old habit and pause. Not always, not perfectly, but enough to know something's different. You let your nervous system settle before answering. You leave space between a feeling and a reaction. This isn't inaction, it's mastery, lived in slow motion. Even if no one else sees it, it reshapes you. The path you're on isn't about avoiding pain. It's about choosing how to meet it, sometimes with stillness, sometimes with anger, sometimes with breath. You're not expected to always meet it well, just to meet it honestly. That honesty might look like confusion. It might look like silence. It still counts. There's a kind of growth that doesn't sparkle. It's blunt, it's firm, it sounds like not again, like this doesn't work, like I'm tired. That clarity is a gift, even when it feels flat, even when it comes after exhaustion. You don't need to dress it up. You just need to trust that it's real. The boundaries you hold now are shaped by care, not just for others, but for you. You don't abandon yourself to keep the peace. Not anymore. But if you still feel the urge, that's not regression. It's memory. It's your system asking, are we safe now? You can answer gently. You can show it in time that yes, you are. You begin to notice the tension before it hardens. You feel the desire to explain, but choose to stay quiet. You let a moment pass without rushing to fill it. These are subtle shifts. They may not feel like triumphs, but they are. They're proof that you no longer live in reaction alone. You've made space for choice. Even joy asks for practice. It doesn't always come naturally. You let yourself feel it a little longer. You let it stay without apology. But if joy still feels fleeting, that's okay too. Familiarity comes with time. Trust builds in increments. You're not doing it wrong if it still feels new. You're just doing it honestly. And that is more than enough. You are building a life that reflects your truth. Not an idealized version, not a perfected one, but a life that feels like yours in the quiet moments. Each small act of self-respect shapes it. A pause, a boundary, a breath. These are not accessories to healing, they are the structure. But if your life still feels like a worksite, not a home, that's allowed. Foundations aren't meant to be pretty, they're meant to hold. You're choosing alignment even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard, you recognize when something drains you and you honor the part of you that says no more. But if that no still shakes in your throat, if it's followed by guilt or second guessing, that doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means you're in the middle of the work. You're making space for yourself without explanation, without apology. You're not performing strength. You're practicing presence. And presence doesn't mean having it all together. It means being with what is. Even if what is feels uncertain, tender, or too quiet to name, your rhythm is becoming more your own, not dictated by urgency, not pulled by expectation. But if urgency still taps your shoulder, if old timelines whisper in your ear, that's okay. Rhythms take time to resettle. You're not late. You're not lost. You're learning to move at the speed of truth. The people around you may not see the shifts, but you do. You notice how you speak differently now, how you hold your energy more closely, how you soften without collapsing and stand firm without bracing. These aren't traits, they're choices. They're the quiet evidence of your becoming. And even on the days when you forget all of this, even on the days when your capacity shrinks and the old stories feel louder than the new ones, you are still on your path, still worthy, still changing, still home. Because this isn't about proving you've healed. It's about learning to live in a way that holds you, especially when nothing else does. Your life doesn't need to be extraordinary to matter. It doesn't need to be impressive to be real. It just needs to reflect you, your values, your care, your hard-won self-trust. That's what gives it meaning. That's what makes it yours. And yours is a life worth living, exactly as it is. You are not chasing a finish line. You are living a process. Moment by moment, choice by choice. There's no prize for arriving, no judgment for still unfolding. The value is in the way you show up, with sincerity, with awareness, with a willingness to try again. But if showing up still feels heavy some days, if presence feels like work, that doesn't undo your progress. It simply means you're human. You are listening to yourself more closely. You recognize your own signals, even if you're still learning how to respond. That learning is valid. That listening is enough. And if the signals feel mixed or the response feels late, it's okay. There is time. There is room. You are not waiting for permission to care for yourself. You are offering it, sometimes softly, sometimes with hesitation, but it's there. And even if the permission is followed by doubt, even if the care is inconsistent, that doesn't cancel its truth. Practice is messy. Care evolves. You are letting rest count, even if it comes in fragments. Even if it arrives alongside guilt. You are unlearning the story that said rest must be earned, that stillness must be justified. That unlearning may take a lifetime, and that's okay. Every breath you take without apology is a kind of restoration. You are setting boundaries that reflect respect, not just for others, but for yourself. Not all boundaries are clean. Some wobble, some need to be reasserted. Some are crossed before they are recognized. That doesn't make you weak, it makes you real. Boundaries are not walls, they are invitations to meet you where you are, not where you used to shrink. You are still in motion, still learning, still enough. Until next time.
You've been listening to the Deeper Thinking podcast. Today's episode was narrated by Holly, our digital narrator, who helps bring our ideas to life. For further reading, research, and ways to support the podcast, please visit the episode webpage. Thank you for your positive reviews on Apple Podcasts. Your reviews help keep us visible so others can discover and enjoy our content.